The text for our meditation tonight is Numbers chapter 23, Numbers chapter 24, and Numbers chapter 25. I'm speaking on this because I want to tie together a trilogy of the last two sermons I've delivered. Remember, there was a sermon on the money in the ministry.
Yes.
How it ruined Balak. And then a donkey made a better tool than a greedy fool, because the man's eyes were filled with lust and he couldn't see the angel of the Lord. And so I'd like to do the third in the trilogy, and that is, it is not the place of your religion, but it is the person of your God. What is important is not the place of your religion. Holy Cross is going through this because we're in the process of moving to a bigger, better place. And some people are terrified, and some people are quitting, and some people are leaving, and some people are crying because they're ripped up from their roots. It is not the place of your worship. It is the one that is worthy of your worship. Amen. So looking at Numbers 22:36, Balak sends to Balaam, and he says, "You're finally here. Let's get going. You finally made it. We're through all that other stuff. Now let's get started with blessing me and cursing Israel." So in 22:39, he takes him to a place called Kirzat Uzroth. Kirzat Uzroth. It means a place of many blossoms. He's here at the place of many blossoms because he believes that he's going to be blessed. And you know that each blossom becomes a flower, then it becomes a fruit, then it bears a seed, and then it goes out and becomes a new plant. And he's got all kinds of dreams about what kind of blossoms he's going to have and all the kind of things that he's going to do. And he is just so excited. And it says in chapter 22, verse 36, that he leaves there and goes to the river Arnon and the city Ai. And Arnon means roaring streams. He's excited. He's anxious to go. He wants to move. He just, let's get the blessing going because I want to get going and I want to conquer Israel. And so they take, and Balaam says, "I want you to make me 7 altars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. A complete number of altars. I want you to slaughter 7 oxen on the 7 altars. Then I want you to slaughter 7 rams on the 7 altars. And you stay here and I'll go talk to God." Now I want to point out that whenever somebody says to you, "You stay there and I'll go talk to God," you better be very careful about what they're talking about with their religion. Because anybody who will not introduce you to their God is probably not serious about the God they won't introduce you to. So Balaam says to Balak, "You stay here with all this sacrifice, and I'll go talk to God." And he goes to talk to God. And God says, "You're going to have to say what I say." So he gives him a vision in the night. And this is a place where he looks out and he sees all of Israel. He sees the mountains, he sees the valleys, he sees the hills. He sees it completely covered with the tents of Israel. And he looks at all of Israel, and God says, "Now I'm going to give you a vision." And the vision is that these people are going to be like a roaring lion. They, like a mighty lion, are going to eat the prey and devour it all. Like a young lion, they're going to lap up the blood. They're going to take it all right there. They are going to make it because these are a special people. These are my people. This is not another nation. And God gives it to them just the way it is. These are a special people. And he looks at all the people of Israel and he's overwhelmed. And he comes out and he says, this is just these people. Their destiny is a phenomenal destiny. And he lays it out. And Balak says to him, this ain't working. This is not what I hired you for. This is not what I paid for you. So let's try another location. Have you ever heard of the geographic cure? He was an alcoholic over there. So he decides that if he moves over there, he's not going to be an alcoholic. Well, if he changes his life, changes his drinking pattern, changes his relationship to God, changes his relationship to people and the people he hangs around, he may give it. But moving doesn't change things. So in 23:14, he goes to a place called Zephaim, which is called Place of the Watchman. And there, they start watching Israel. In 23:14, they go to a place in the Place of the Watchman called Pisgah. And Pisgah means summit. They go to the very top of the mountain, but they go in such a way that half of Israel is hidden. He says, maybe if you can't see all of them, you won't get so inspired. So maybe if you don't look at all of them, go up there and half of them will be hid, and you just take a look at some of these and you take a look at some of those, and maybe you won't get so inspired. You can give a better vision and a better blessing and a better curse. And so what happens? Same thing. He says, I want 7 altars. And I want 7 oxen slain on the altars and burned to God. I want 7 rams on the 7 altars burned to God. I want this. And now you stay here and I'm going to go talk to God. You see, anytime anybody will not introduce you to their God, you're missing the point of everything that's going on. So he goes to this place where he can only see the hinder part. He can only see a little bit of them. And it's laid out. These are my people. I want you to see the tents of Jacob. I want you to see the tabernacles of Israel. These are the people who will move out, and it is their destiny to cover the world. These are my people, and they're going to be blessed. And there's a scripture song in 23:17. God is not a man that he should lie, neither the Son of Man that he should repent. He will not say unless he do. And I cannot bless what he has cursed. And I cannot curse what he has blessed. For God will do what he will do. You know, you and I have to believe that in our life. We have to believe that our life is in God's hand. The place doesn't matter. What matters is our relationship with God. It doesn't matter what I have. It matters what I'm believing God is going to give me. I'm believing what God is going to do through me, what God is going to do for me, what God is going to use me for. And without this belief that God is using us, we don't have the power that we need to have. When it's tied to the place. And see, one of the mistakes they made in this particular location is that somehow Balak thought that it was tied to looking at the size of the people. I don't believe your problem is the size of the people. If we had 10,000 people moving over to First Church, does anybody have a difficulty believing that it would work out? It'd work. By the very nature that it was that big. See, what matters is not the number of people, but what matters is the relationship with God. Yeah. I don't care how big is your group. I care how big is your God. I care how big is your faith. And that may be that way with your business. It may be that way with your retirement. It may be that way with your financial future. It's not how big is your bank account. It's how big is your belief in your God. It's how big is your belief in what God is doing through you. And here we see, he says, now let's go to a place where you can only see the hinder part of, look at their backside. If you look at their backside, you won't bless them so big. No, it's not the amount of it's not the amount of the people. It's what God intends to do with them. And so once again, Balak is, I think he got what I wanted, so let's move on somewhere else. He goes to a place, according to 23:28, he goes to a place called Peor. P-E-O-R. Because Peor, it's a cleft, an opening in the mountains. And this is kind of interesting because you got one mountain coming this way, then a second mountain coming this way in front of it. And between the two, there is an opening that you can't see. And so if you know it's there, you can come through the opening. There is a cleft in this mountain, and they go to this location. And from here, you can hardly see any of Israel. From here, he can hardly see any of the people. And he says, tell you what I'm going to do. I want you to build me 7 altars. So much for formalized religion. I want you to build me 7 altars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I want you to slaughter me 7 oxen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I want you to slaughter me 7 rams. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Does this sound familiar? It's exactly the liturgy that he was using. See, the liturgy is not so important. It's the Lord of the liturgy. It's having that relationship with God. And all of us in this day and age should be praying for a new, deeper, enhanced relationship with God, because nothing is more important than that God has you in his heart and has your future and your destiny in his hand. And he said, this time I don't want you to look at them. I want you to turn around and look at the wilderness. Look at the wilds. Look at the desert. Look at nothing there. Maybe that will uninspire you so you won't bless that people.
Yeah.
So he takes and he looks at the wilderness. Weeds and thorns and thistles and snakes and scorpions. All the bad stuff in life. And then God says, it is my Spirit that is going to bring it through. And he has a trance fall on this guy, looking at the wilds and the wilderness, and in the trance, he sees what God is going to do. And he sees God using Israel to transform the entire world. He sees God using these people like the dust of the earth. And they scatter and they spread and they move. See, this is one of the problems with people who don't believe the Bible. They don't believe that this children of Israel actually scattered around the whole world. They believe they disappeared because they did something dirty. They believe they disappeared and they failed because they didn't do what God told them to do. And they don't realize that God used his Spirit like dust to scatter them around the world, And he said, look at their tents. They'll be rich tents. Look at their tabernacles. And notice he always says Jacob and Israel. Because Jacob is Israel in the sinful form. All of us are going to continue to have that sinful form. God, I wish I was perfect. Well, actually, no, I wish you were perfect, then you wouldn't get in my way. Look, you get the picture? If you change, I don't have to. He always talks about Jacob because Jacob is the one who has not yet been redeemed. And then he talks of Israel because Israel is the one who has been blessed and has grown. Look at the tents of Jacob and look at the tabernacles of Israel. And he just blesses these people up one side and down the other. I believe he talked them all the way over to America. He talked them all the way to Africa. He talked them all the way into China. He talked them all the way to South America. He just talked these people all over the whole world. And about this time, Balak blew a fuse. Balak had it, and it says he starts to kindle his anger. He starts to kindle his anger. And his anger starts to kindle. He said, what are you doing? I paid you to give me a good blessing and you've done nothing but bless them. And he says, how can I do except what the Lord tells me to do? How can I do except what God inspires me to do? And you see, we need some of that kind of faith so that we will always, in the face of the world, do what God tells us to do, hoping that people will be touched, will be transformed. What is witnessing? It's talking about Jesus Christ under the power of the Holy Spirit to the glory of God the Father. So that God can work in people's lives who we can't even believe in them. So, I'm on to the text now. I've made it through all these blessings. This was all introduction. Balak failed, but Balaam told him a secret that could destroy Israel. Balaam told him a secret that could destroy the United States. Balaam told him a secret that could destroy the form, the structure, the outward organ of the church. He told him a secret. And we're on to chapter 25. Chapter 25. And Israel got involved with Midian and their sacrifices. The only thing that could stop the destiny of what they wanted to do to the glory of God and to the glory of them is if they got involved with the sacrifices of pagans. And the Midianites had cheerleaders. You've all seen the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. You've seen the Tampa Bay Buckaroos. Well, the Midianites had cheerleaders. They took all their most beautiful girls and they dressed them up. And they sent them into Israel and they said, go and talk to the young boys there and then bring them here and bring them to our sacrifices, because our sacrifices are feasts. And they come and they eat the feast and they sit and they join the feast and they drink and then they play and then they lay and things got really intimate. The only way that Israel could be deterred and destroyed from all the blessings that God wanted to give them is if they wound up getting involved with the Midianites intimately through these girls. If they could pull the young men there, this was the secret that Balak received from Balaam. That if you will seduce them with the beauty of your youth, with the food, with the drink, with the music, with the hemp, with the pot, with all the different hallucinogenic drugs, if you get them to the point where they can just look at all that pie in the sky light stuff, they won't be able as a people to fulfill the destiny of God. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, I want to tell you something. God's still going to do what God was going to do. God took the United States when they were just isolationists. And he had Germany attack on this side. And he had Japan attack on this side. And suddenly the United States, sitting there minding its own business, was in a world war where they had to go and take over Europe and clean it up. Then they had to go to Asia. They had to take over. They had to clean it up. They wound up taking the destiny of the world in both hands and controlling it. Not because they wanted to, or but because God made them do it. And he made them do it because they were not doing what he wanted to do. They were busy fooling with the Midianite women. Mm-hmm. They were busy glorifying over economic prosperity. They were busy glorifying over military power and growth and population. They were glorifying over ease and pleasure and simplicity. And so God took and he pulled them out of their orbit till they became a world power. What had God said from all those mountaintop experiences that he was going to do? Well, he was going to take them like dust and blow them around the world. That's exactly what God did. But they did it without knowing him, without knowing God. Now there's two very important things that are going to take place in this chapter. The children of Israel got involved with the Midianites, one, because sex was fun. Way back then, sex was seductive and it was fun. And so they all got involved with it. But there was a second element to this that you should not miss. They were taught in the Canaanite religions that when you went into a temple and there you had real, wild, voluptuous sex with a temple prostitute or a Midianite girl, what you were doing was guaranteeing the fertility of the world. You were guaranteeing with what you were doing that the world was going to become fertile. It was sort of the original green energy policy. Got the picture?
Yeah.
Yes.
You were told that there was something that you could do that would make the world the most productive place it could be, in spite of the creator up there who created it. And so they were getting a double barrel. One, they were getting a lot of pleasure. Hollywood really tied into this one big. Rock and roll really tied into this one big. The entertainment industry really tied into this one big. The literature industry really tied into this one big. But also they were told that they could help in creating prosperity for the entire world. Green energy. If you'll simply stop doing what God told you to do, stop using the blessing God gave you, stop looking that God is the one who blessed you with the richness, God is the one who blessed you with the technology, God has blessed you with the ingenuity to create all this stuff. Stop doing all that and just sort of turn it over to somebody else. Satan, if you will. So they of course got involved with this. Now there's something that this is really important. what I'm going to get to. And I hope I don't mess it up. Because Moses, the children of Israel were fighting this with the Midianites. And Moses was trying to mobilize against it. And Moses is busy speaking against it. And all of a sudden, a young man grabs the hand of a Midianite girl, and he leads her into the tabernacle right up beside the altar, and he lays her down on the ground, and then he becomes intimate with her, never knowing that monkeypox is hiding. He thinks he's adding fertility to the world, and he thinks he's leading the children of Israel into a great new religion, the religion of sexuality. And a young man named Phinehas grabs a javelin, that's a short spear with a sharp point, and he runs into the temple and he nails the two of them, and he just drives the spear right through him, right through her, right into the ground. He nails them. And that ends that. Now, what's the importance of this? This is ultimately important up to your day and age and mine. Do you remember the rape of Dinah?
Yeah.
Do I need to review that? Does everybody remember? She was raped by this boy, and then the boy said, I really love her, I really want her. Dad, let's join those people. And two boys, Simeon and Levi, they were talkers. They went and said, you can't join us because we are a holy people. We've got a covenant with God. We are perfect and we're closer to God. We have circumcision. It's a blood sacrifice. You can't marry our sister because then your people would want to marry our people, and you don't have a blood sacrifice, and we can't mix our blood sacrifice with your unblood sacrifice. So the boy goes to his father and he says, Dad, I will have the blood sacrifice, and I'll talk everybody into the tribe into getting the blood sacrifice. Simeon and Levi talked him into this. They used the covenant of God. We're God's people. And then Simeon and Levi, when they had talked them into it, all of the men in this entire tribe got circumcised the same day. I want you to think about the pain of that for a moment and then get off it quick. Simeon and Levi then go and they start talking to the 12 tribes of Israel, to their brothers, and they say, those people are really hurting. Let's go kill all the men and let's take all the women for concubines. I mean, they were sex-driven. They were violent. So that's what they did. And when Jacob heard about it, he says, what have you done? You've made us the laughing stock. You've made us cursed by all of the Canaanites. They think we're worse than they are. They think our God is dirtier than their God. You have absolutely ruined the covenant of God. And he said, when I am going to take and give a blessing to the 12 tribes of Israel, you are not worthy to be a people, and you can never be a people. You are never worthy to be a people. Because you're too sensual, you're too violent, you're too dirty. But you need help. So he takes a look at this circumstance. Now Phinehas is the son of Eleazar, is the son of Aaron. He is a priest. He's a Levite. He is the father of Levites. And so 3 times, once when they had the golden calf around Mount Sinai, the Levites put on their swords and they went and killed all those who had sex. Then this time, Phinehas takes and he kills them. And when they went in and they killed all of the tribe of the men who wanted to marry Dinah. they put on their sword and they were violent. So, God said that Phinehas was not capable of becoming a people, but he needed the covenant to guide him. So Phinehas became the Levites, the priestly class. The sword of the slaughter became the sacrifice of circumcision. The Levites were guided by the covenant. The man who brought that woman in was of the tribe of Simeon, the other one that couldn't become a people. So God took the Simeonites. He said, you people cannot become a nation because you are too violent, you are too sensual. You need the covenant of God to guide you. You cannot live without the covenant. So he took the Simeonites, and the word Simeon means to be auditory or to hear, to speak. And he said, you will become the pastors of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. So he took that which was a curse.
That explains a lot.
Yes, it does. When it comes to finance, when it comes to sensuality, when it comes to violence, when it comes to the Crusades, yes, it does. It explains an awful lot. If you really understand what God did here, it explains a lot. Because it explains where the world is right now. And it explains why the United States has lost the blessing that God wanted desperately to give it. And 3 times he promised it. Every time he went somewhere, every time they went to a new location, he promised it differently and better and better and better. And they did. But I just wanted to share with you that God brought a blessing. And those 2 tribes God has used. The Simeonites. I'm never surprised when a pastor is bad. I'm always surprised when a pastor is good.
Yes.
Because I know where they come from. And the Levites need the covenant to guide them because they're not a good people. See, it's not the place of the worship. It is the one you worship. Shall we rise for the